And I will say, as someone who has worked closely with SEIU for decades, whether when I was a member of Congress with SEIU National, or whether it's SEIU in the state of California, where I did a lot of work with SEIU, you are the best. Maybe it's because you are service workers, so you know you have to be out there in service. When it comes to who's going to walk the streets, you all are out there the first ones. And when it comes to when we say we got to have a great rally, who are we going to call? SEIU is in the house. And so you are always there for us. We got to be there for you. And so I look forward to the questions. I hope I can convey to you that more important than being here as the secretary, I'm here as someone you know, because as I said when I first started, I know you. I know who you are. I know what you struggled through. I know what you went through. I know what you're trying to do for your kids. I know what your parents did for you. I know what your dreams are. I know what your hopes are. And I know what you can do. And so I want to be here with you today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for knowing us, for seeing us, for being part of our family, and we're all in when it comes to turning this baby upside down. Before we turn to the speakers, I want to actually ask for some help from the audience. We wish that we had the time to hear from each and every person in this room, and we don't, but we're hoping that everybody can participate, because I think you'll see on your table that you have, there's some cards there. I think they're purple. People see purple cards? And so what I would ask is that if one of the panelists says something that you agree with, something that resonates for you, take the card and hold it up and wave it. And that way the secretary will know that the panelist is speaking not just for him or herself, but for all of us. And if they ask you a question, and I think the panelists will ask you some questions, and the answer is yes, wave that card as well. And let's just do a practice run. Are there any home care workers in the room? Looks like the answer is yes. Are there any child care workers in the room? Are there any nursing home workers in the room? And here's one that I bet will get even more yeses. Is there anyone in this room who needs care themselves, or has someone in your family who needs care, home care, nursing home care, or child care?
I need a purple card.
Yeah, we need purple cards up here as well. Thanks, and please feel free to use those cards at any point during the next hour. But now it's time to hear from our speakers. And our first speaker is Maria Rivera. Maria is a child care worker and a member of SEIU. She owns and runs Nati and Friends Daycare in Mabton, Washington, where she has done child care for 28 years. So let me turn it to Maria.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Maria Rivera, and for 28 years I have owned and operated Natty and Friends Daycare in Mabton, Washington State, the other Washington. Yes. I am also a proud member of my local SEIU Local 925, and this is my story. I opened up my daycare to fill up a gap in my community. It was either that or leave my children on an unlicensed site, and I wasn't about to do that. So I got licensed and opened up my daycare. I've been doing this for so long that I now take care of kids I took care of. So I like to call them my grandkids, my daycare babies. And I love my job. I love my job. I live in a farm town. So my day starts during harvest season. My day starts at 4 in the morning and usually ends by 4 or 5 if I'm lucky. So we're looking at 12, 13 hours. But with that said, a few years ago, I had to get a second job to help pay for staff and to help, pay for just bills, mortgage, help my daughter, my kids, help them, get through college. So we're looking at, 13 hours plus another job. And my days are, long. And that second job helps me, like I said, pay for staff. My primary children, families are migrants. We have a season that starts from March to November, and as much as my parents work hard to keep their food on the table, I also work hard to, keep food on my table, pay my bills. So it's hard having two jobs, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I've throughout the days that I've been around here, I have heard other saying they have 2, 3, even 4 jobs. So I know I'm not the only one. So this is not okay. So this is why, CARE, we have to fix it, and, CARE can't wait. I do have a question for the audience. The question is, who here has struggled to find quality care that they can afford? I'm sure many of us. Yes, I hear you. My question to Secretary Becerra is, the administration has made a huge commitment to addressing the child care staffing crisis through new purposes regulation for child care and Head Start. The regulation would require higher wages, benefits, and paid leave, as well as expand access to affordable child care for families. We would also like to see a role for our child care unions to ensure that, this work is actually, to ensure that workers actually see the benefits of the priorities that you have set for child care and Head Start. What should we be doing as a union to ensure that this regulation moves forward in 2021? Oh, sorry, 2024. Sorry, 2024.
We wish it were already in place in 2020.
I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
No.
Great.
First, if I could say to Maria, for you taking a second job, and you didn't say I'm taking a second job so I could, keep my family fed. You said I'm taking a second job so I can pay my workers. That to me is pretty special. But I think what's even more special about what you just said is you own your business and you're a member of the union. And to me, that's powerful because some people say union and owners can never mix. Well, here you got one who is both, and sure enough, she's showing you it can work. So to answer your question, we didn't propose a rule. Sometimes what happens when you're in policy making or politics, I know you've seen this too, because I even see it, and I've been in this business for a long time. Somebody will ask a question, how can you improve wages or whatever, and you want a specific answer, and then you get this general, well, we're going to do everything to make you be better off. And then they go off and they leave, and they don't give you any specifics. Please read our proposed rule. We didn't just say we want to raise wages. We said we want 80% of the money that we send out to be dedicated to the workforce for wages and benefits. So there's no mistaking. No mistaking. Now, you have a business, so you have overhead, you have other costs. But we're saying, the business of care requires people. And if you're going to have overhead expenses, most of it's going to be to pay wages and benefits to the people doing the business. And so why shouldn't we put in the rule something that says, don't tell me that only 30% of the money we gave you went to actually provide the wages and benefits of the people doing the work. Where's the rest of the money going? Please look at the rule. We were very specific. The way I say it is, we were very intentional. It is not an accident that the rule says 80% goes to salary and wages. It is not by luck that we put that in there. It was intentional. And that's what we're going to do. And what we recognize is that, one of the dilemmas that those who have the business of care, in this case, for example, child care, there's always a situation where the state you're in that helps fund child care after we give them money will say, well, we only have so much money, so we can either use one of these dollars to open up another seat for another child to go into that care center, or we could put the money in to increase the wages to keep quality workers working to care for the kids. It's a dilemma, right? A lot of people still need care for their kids, but there aren't enough slots. Hard to open up more slots because you can't afford to bring in people to work because they're out there flipping burgers making more money than you can afford to pay them. The dilemma. So what we did is we said we're going to put money in for both. And so our proposal would put money in not just to increase wages, benefits, but it also lets a caregiving business know that they could open up more slots because we're going to give the state money for that purpose as well. And so, as I said, read our rule. And then what I hope you'll do is that you'll help us pass it because there will be forces that just say, no go. We want to go. We want to go big.
I think this concept of putting strings on taxpayer dollars, which seems like common sense to us, right? If something is paid for by taxpayer dollars, then government should be able to say what it goes for, is really quite radical. And we support putting those strings on federal dollars in childcare and, in fact, throughout the care system. So thank you so much, and thank you to Maria. And now I want to turn to Ron Sturl, who is a nursing home worker, a certified nurse's aide in Oregon, and an SEIU member. Ron, until 15 years ago, Ron worked in the restaurant industry, and he left that industry because he wanted to do something that was more meaningful to him. And I know that he takes incredible pride in the quality of care that he is able to provide to his residents in Hood River. So, Ron.
Thank you, Leslie. And thank you, Secretary, for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I always feel that it's an honor to take part in events like this, whether I'm a spectator or a speaker. I believe it's my duty to represent nursing homes, the nursing home workers, before decision makers like yourself. I thank you again for taking the time to join us today in this important conversation. After nearly 15 years of being a CNA, I can tell you that the work is characterized by two seemingly opposite truths. Being a CNA is rewarding and fulfilling, and being a CNA is a soul-crushing and defeating. Believe it or not, both can be true. As a CNA, I love my job. I love my residents that I take care of every day. We are taking care of people that often can't take care of themselves. We take care of people that have no family or family that can no longer take care of them. We take care of people with cancer, dementia, diabetes, mental health, and behavioral issues. We take care of the person who is detoxing from drugs and alcohol. When a new resident comes into our facility, they have no past. We don't know what kind of person they were before they arrived. We care for them as they are. We care for them like they are part of our family. Even when they punch us, even when they scratch us, even when they slap us and swear at us. Every day, we feed them, we bathe them, we interact with them with compassion, dignity, empathy, and respect. But unsafe staffing levels make fulfilling our purpose impossible. Our souls are crushed when we arrive to see that we are the only CNA on the floor to take care of 20 residents. We feel defeated when we are forced into a situation where the best we can do is not good enough, and the residents are robbed of the safety, the comfort, and the joy we promise to give them. CNAs can work magic in many ways, but one power we don't have is to manifest more CNAs to safely staff all shifts. I am lucky to live in Oregon, and we have a strong union for nursing home workers. Together, we have been able to advocate for ourselves and our residents and bring about real change in Oregon. But the reality is that so many nursing home workers in this country don't have unions. They don't have the relationship with their employers and a seat at the table. They don't have the freedom to speak up when things are not right. They don't have state and local governments that prioritize care and caregiving. We need the federal government to step up and get this crisis under control. That's why the federal minimum staffing standard is so important to us. CMS staffing proposals this fall was a huge step forward, and we are hopeful that the administration will do everything in its power to strengthen, implement, and enforce these rules to the fullest extent. Nursing home operators cannot be trusted to make the decisions about staffing and financial stewardship. Strong standards with strict accountability measures is the only way to end this dangerous game of the nursing home industry that they have played with the lives of the most valuable citizens. Thank you. Now I have a question for our audience. How many of you have felt burnout? How many of you felt helpless? And how many of you have feared for the safety of yourself or for your residents? I wish I could say that I'm surprised at how many people raised their cards, but I'm not. The staffing crisis impacts care workers from all walks of life, from all industries, and from all parts of the country. My question to you, Mr. Secretary, is how would the administration work to strengthen the current processes nursing homes use to assess their staffing needs and ensure workers have the direct role in determining those needs? And what can be done to hold facilities accountable to keep workers and residents safe at the expense of corporate profits?
Ron, thank you for the question, and thank you for speaking to that personal experience. And your personal experience speaks directly to the proposed rule that we have put out, because we don't want to leave it to chance or to luck or coincidence that standards are high and that quality is what is delivered. People are entitled to know that that's what their loved ones will receive, and people who are doing the work are entitled to know that they're going to have the assistance and support they need to perform that quality work. That's what the proposed rule essentially says. If you're going to be a nursing home, you better have some nurses in your operation. You know, if you are going to charge for that care, then give quality. And if you're going to go out there and profess to people, if you're going to represent to people that you will safely and with care provide services to those people who are residents, then we have an obligation as our government to hold you accountable. And so this rule is all about that. By the way, I think we got more comments on this particular rule, tens of thousands of comments from people throughout the country, because it's so important to them, but it is so real to them, because so many families are going through this. And it's going to happen more and more, right? We see this all the time. Our family members, we're having to figure out how to care for them. Some of us are fortunate. I was able to care for my father till he passed in my home. My mom and my dad, they lived with me, and for the last 3-4 years of his life, he lived with me, and we watched him. He was surrounded by all his family when he passed. I mean, that's the best way to go, right, when you are with your family. And we would like to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to be with their family, whether they're fully in health, whether they're somewhat infirm, or whether in their last days, because that's the way to go. And we should make it possible for everyone to have that opportunity. And so Ron, to your question, please look at our rule. We need your help because, as you can imagine, there's some who don't want the rule to take effect. And that rule requires minimum standards. Actually, many of the comments that we've gotten may lead us to make some changes to improve the way we enforce the standards, to make sure that we're covering all the bases. And the great thing about getting so many comments is you can see the full texture of what has to be done. And we hope that we can finalize that rule with your support and then get to it, because there are a whole bunch of folks who need to get good care, and there are a whole bunch of folks who deserve to be paid well for the good care that they're giving. And the final thing I'll say is this: you are caregivers, so I hope this message resonates with you. COVID is still killing Americans. COVID is still dangerous. We need Americans to be vaccinated. We need our workers who care for people and have that direct contact day to day, whether it's child, infirm, we need them to be vaccinated. I hope each and every one of you has been updated and will get updated. We made it, by the way, I made sure that we saved more than $1 billion of our COVID monies so we could make sure that Americans who were uninsured or underinsured continue to receive the vaccines without charge. And so today in America, there is not one person who has had to pay 1 penny to get the vaccine and to get the treatments. And that's because President Biden made the commitment that this was not going to be going just to the folks who could afford it. It would go to everyone in America. So we need America to come forward, because we made it available to you and you and you, regardless of your income, regardless of where you live, regardless of your status. You qualify to get that shot. Nearly 700 million shots on COVID vaccines have gone into the arms of Americans, but we still need people to get them to stay updated. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Secretary Becerra, for the reminder about the importance of vaccination, and we will continue as a union to educate our members about the importance of staying up to date on their vaccines. And just one reflection on nursing home staffing: there is no issue that is more important to our members who work in nursing homes than staffing, and you can count on us to be the wind in your sails as you sail forward into what we know is significant headwind that you're facing because of opposition from the industry. Those comments that you talked about, we submitted over 9,000 of them. Those were our members telling their individual stories, and we will be there every step of the way to support you as you evaluate, hopefully strengthen, and implement the rule. And with that, I want to turn to Phyllis Pride. Phyllis is a home care worker from Michigan, where she's done home care for 25 years. One thing that you should know about Phyllis is that she is currently, along with her coworkers, leading a fight to restore collective bargaining rights to home care workers in Michigan. Because so many home care workers are excluded from the National Labor Relations Act, they only have union rights when state law is passed. And after we won a union in Michigan in 2012, then Governor Snyder stole those rights back. And so Phyllis and her coworkers are leading a fight with support from Governor Whitmer to restore those rights. So Phyllis.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I am Phyllis Pride. I'm 66 years old. I am a breast cancer survivor. I am delighted for this opportunity to address the Department of Health and Human Services and the Secretary. I have been on the CHAMPS list for the past 15 years. It is a difficult job. While caring for people who are in need of care, my duties can entail bathing, toileting, cleaning, cooking, serving meals, running errands, banking, and being a shoulder to cry on. All the while, I am assuring quality life for people in their homes. Although the job is difficult, I perform many tasks. I am compassionate about people in need of being able to live a quality life in their homes. It is unfair that in Michigan, we no longer have the right of organizing as of 2012. The last time I got a raise was 13 years ago. And in 2012, I was driving a newer car that cost about $10,000. The latest version of that car is $26,000, and it is out of my reach because of my pay. We are paid monthly, and that feels like a stipend or a gift. Certainly not adequate for the jobs that we do. If we don't receive wage increases and guarantee all home cares have the right for collective bargaining, our long-term care system will not survive. And it's getting harder for workers to maintain employees in this kind of work because of the low wages. Not being paid overtime, we don't get no vacation. We are professionals, and we are here to serve America. And we cannot be replaced. Americans are not in good health, and we need good home care. Americans who want to live at home with dignity get sent home to suffer and or die without the services that home care provides. It is much to my dismay that things are not getting better for us. But I thank you all for listening. I have a question for the audience. How many people have had to take off work to go home to care for a loved one and not get paid? I have a question for the secretary. Tens of millions of people provide unpaid care for loved ones, and the majority of the family of caregivers is either full-time or part-time. My question is, what is this administration doing to strengthen home care force?
So Phyllis, I want to tell you that everything we've discussed is important, but from my perspective, this is the big one. Because whether it is a child or whether it is someone who is no longer able to care for themselves completely, if you could do it at home, that's always better. Child care is great when you have someone like Maria, right? Because you know your child is going to be cared for and loved, but nobody cares for you like your own family. And having, cleaned a loved one who could no longer clean himself, fed them, bathed them, put them to bed, get them up. It is not easy. And even as a loved one, sometimes you get to the point of saying, this is too much, right? But if you're saying that and you love this person, what is the other person saying? Especially if they're 66, surviving from breast cancer and not making enough money and still doing this? I mean, you gotta look at Phyllis and say, the Lord brought you down to this earth. And we thank people like Phyllis for what they do to care for people as if they are their loved ones. And so, Phyllis, what I can tell you is that we are more and more focusing on home health care. We want to see people who care, including family members, earn a living through the work that they're doing. So you should be paid for caring. Just because you're a relative, it used to be, back then we thought, wait a minute, you're a family member. Why should we pay you money to do what you should do anyhow? Because you know what, there's so many, especially people who are baby boomers. Everybody's gonna be needing care. And if it gets too big and too expensive and too hard, guess what? They're gonna end up in a nursing home, and folks can't afford it, and guess who pays? The taxpayers end up paying. So it is better off not just because we're being good to our family that we love to have us be able to care for them at home and get the love. It's good for the taxpayer and good for our economy if we allow you to care for your loved one at home, because we're saving money. And so that's why I say, Phyllis, what you are doing is where we want to go, because that is the future. If we truly care about our fellow Americans, we would make sure that they're cared for by the people who love them most. And that's where we're going to try to go. And with your help, we'll get there. And we'll get there by making sure that when there is somebody doing the work, whether it's a relative or it's someone like Phyllis who essentially becomes a relative, you are paid what you deserve. And we hope that you will help us fight to make that happen, because that is where we go. I say that not just as secretary. I say that more as a son who had a chance to take care of his dad. To the very end. And there is nothing like that, right? When you get there, you get to be there with the person you love the most, and you get to say goodbye to them and know that you did everything you could. We'll be there with you.
So, thank you, Secretary Becerra. And I actually have a question for the audience, because something that Phyllis said is just sticking with me. She said, we lost the union in Michigan in 2012, and she hasn't had a raise for 13 years. And the question that I have for every caregiver in this room is, are we going to stand behind the Michigan home care workers as they fight to win back their union? Because that's how, Phyllis said, it feels like things aren't getting better. That's how we're going to make things better for home care workers in Michigan and for the people that you take care of, Phyllis. And now I'd like to turn to our final speaker. Marta Peralta is an early education aide in Los Angeles and an SEIU member. She works with kids between the ages of 2 and 5, and told me earlier that one of the things that she values most is the role that she plays in supporting parents. So Marta.
Hello, everybody. My name is Marta Isabel Peralta. I have been a teacher assistant in an early education center in Los Angeles Unified School District. Like she mentioned, I work with the kids from 2 to 5 years old. I enjoy my job. I am in the right place. I am happy doing my job. Also, let me tell you, I am a proud member of SEIU, Los Angeles, California. I'm coming from there, along with my group leaders and everybody else that came in. But one of the beautiful things that I love to be here is because we are from different states, and we are all united. And we make a lot of difference in the whole nation, the whole country. I love it. I love it. One of the things that I want to say here that I'm very, very extremely happy, I'm privileged. I was not expecting it. This honor to be right here with the Secretary, Mr. Becerra. So I'm very proud of me. I'm very proud of being with him. So I understand the power of coming together in the union. Last year, in March 22, classified workers and LAUSD went on a strike. The unity among classified employees and certificated teachers made an impact. We won. Woohoo! We won. We won important demands: 30% raised for all the classified employees. We're very proud of that. That big accomplishment. Also, there was an increase on increased hours for special education teacher assistants. Another goal that we were able to meet was like everybody, all the classified employees got 1,000 bonus for all the classified employees, including myself. So I'm very happy. The union works, so let's get it together, okay? This wouldn't have been possible without standing together. We need to support each other. We need to move people in our places. We need to take off all the message, how important it is the unions for all the workers in this nation. All the workers have the right to be part of the union because unions are for all. So it is clear that we're facing a care crisis. Everyone has been speaking about it here today. I see that where I work, I see that at my work. We provide essential services for families. Some parents are looking for work. Some are even homeless. During stressful times, we are able to provide services, a safe, positive learning environment for all the children. However, we must be able to take care of our own families too. That's why we need investment. We need investment. Things need to be changed. That is why I'm here, speaking out here today with Mr. Becerra. Secretary. Mr. Becerra. Sorry. Now, I do have questions for the audience too. How many of you make less than $20? So we still have a lot of work to do, you see? But we're gonna get it together. If we get united, we're gonna make it. How many of you make less than $15 right here? You see? We need to teach everybody the value of our work. We need to teach them that we need to be respected. And the last question will be, how many of you are still fighting to join the union? Everybody has the right to be part of the union. So we should not fight to be part of the union. It is a right that we need to have. Now, the next question will be for me, Secretary and Mr. Becerra. And this is his question for all the audience and me. What are some ways that the Health and Human Services can encourage higher wages, support workers' voice, including support for unions? That will be for you, Mr. Becerra.
So Marta, first you have to recognize that when I was in Congress, I was a member of Congress in Los Angeles for 24 years. So I suspect somewhere along the line, Marta and I were probably in some of the same marches and who knows what else together on some of these issues. So, and as you all know, in California, SEIU is the dominant force. And so, yeah. And so I probably worked for Marta at some point in time, and she was probably been my boss at some point in time. And you should know that the classified workers at LA Unified School District, LAUSD, which you mentioned, been fighting for a long time to get better wages and benefits. And so that success was just awesome. But it was all people-driven by the people themselves. And so Marta and all the workers at SEIU and all those who fought really deserve a lot of credit, because it ain't bad when Phyllis tells you she hasn't had an increase in her wages in 13 years, and Marta just mentions how wages went up 30%. You could see what happens when you work together. You know? So Marta, to your question, again, as President Biden has said, if you want to know someone's values, take a look at their budgets. You know, where are you putting your money? And if you look at the president's budget, he has invested more money in caregiving than any president before. Not only in the budget, but as I said to you, President Biden, through these regulations that we're proposing at HHS, is proposing more far-reaching measures that go to the issue of how we treat people who work in this business with dignity, whether it is by lifting the standards that have to be employed, or by actually increasing wages, or making sure that the monies that the taxpayer give to help fund those programs get spent mostly 80% on wages. We're showing people what President Biden's values are. And they're very similar to what Marta has expressed already, is giving people a sense of dignity. And at the end of the day, it's not just Marta who's going to benefit, right? All those kids that the classified workers help in all these schools, they're going to be better taught. They're going to grow up happier because they're going to have talented people who are committed to the job, who are doing that work. The final thing that we're doing that I hope you'll support as well, because we need Congress to give us more resources to do it, is we're trying to help retain the workforce in caregiving. That means a couple of things. That means giving more avenues so that people can go into the profession and know that they can actually work long-term and make a living out of it. Because we don't want you to do fairly well, but then all of a sudden find out that somebody's going to pay you a couple bucks more an hour, and for you that's a big amount of money, so you leave. All of a sudden we lose a great caregiver for kids, or for those who are infirm, or a classified worker. We need people to say, I want to work as a caregiver because I'm caring for someone I care about, but I'm making pretty good money. And so we're trying to do what we can to help increase the workforce, provide avenues for training, for increased wages, and, because sometimes people forget, it's not just what your wages, it's what your benefits are. Are you getting benefit, health care, vision, dental, retirement? That's where we want to go, because it's the package, right? No CEO takes a job and doesn't say, what is my entire compensation? Well, you are CEOs of your life, and you deserve to get an entire compensation, so we want to help. And Marta, we will be there with you all, because as I said at the very beginning, I know you, and you know me, so we're going to work with you.
Thank you, Secretary Becerra. I wonder if you have any closing comments before I summarize at the end?
Look, on most of these things, you had me at hello, so I hope you recognize that from President Biden on down, we get it. We know what matters. And for someone who watched his parents, my dad started off as a farm worker. He then started working at Campbell's Soup, canning tomatoes. Those tomato soups that you drank or you gave your kids, my dad packed them. From there, he went to where he could make more pay in road construction, because in those days in California, we were building all these freeways, so that's what he started doing, road construction. And then he'd come home from work and someone would say, you know what, I got to fix that driveway in my house, and my dad would lay cement, so he'd say, I can do it. And he'd get his side jobs, and he'd do everything he could to add to the income that they had so they could provide for us. I know you. I just told you the story of your life as well. My dad would tell me the stories when he was a kid, a younger man, how there were signs outside that he would read. After he had picked all the fruit that you and I are eating, he'd see the signs outside the restaurants that would say, no dogs, Negroes, or Mexicans allowed. And so while we may not see those signs out there, it's almost as if they're telling us the same thing, but just in secret, right?
That's right.
And so I think what we're trying to say is, no. Anyone who works and does it with dignity and treats your loved one as if they're their own, you let them in anywhere they want to go. No sign should keep them out. We're here to say to you, you keep working. We're going to keep opening those doors so you can do whatever you need to do. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So I want to say a profound thank you to our speakers, to Marta, to Phyllis, to Ron, to Maria, especially to Secretary Becerra. The stories that you shared today, all 5 of you, moved me, inspired me, and frankly reminded me of the urgency of the work that we all do together and the urgency of the moment that we're in. I want to close us out by reminding us all about our common vision for a future, our vision for a future with a care system that works for everyone, workers and the people that we take care of alike. We're fighting for a future where everyone has access to care, where they want it, when they need it, and for everyone in their family. We're fighting for a future in which every caregiver is fairly compensated, in which we all have enough staff to provide the quality of care that the people that we care for need every time, no exceptions. We're fighting for a future in which every caregiver has a union, a voice in the decisions that affect them at work and in their communities as well. And we're fighting for a future in which our economy and our democracy work equally for everyone, regardless of the color of our skin, the language we speak, where we came from, or whether we grew up rich or we grew up poor. We know that winning this vision will not be easy. It'll be a struggle, but I have to say that events like the one we're having right now give me enormous hope. And I'm thankful to have allies like Secretary Becerra, allies like President Biden with us in the fight, and I am inspired and confident in the knowledge that we will enter this fight shoulder to shoulder, SEIU members all across the country, joining together, fighting for a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. So thank you, Secretary Becerra, for joining us, for your leadership. Thank you to Marta, to Maria, to Phyllis, and to Ron. And thank you to everyone for joining in the audience, for joining us for this event, for being here for the last 3 days, and for everything that you do every single day to take care of the most vulnerable people in our society and to fight for a care system that works for everyone. Thank you all so very much.